All right, my dear student, welcome back to your French language course online. Je m'appelle Chidi, bonjour. In the previous lesson, we started talking about verb conjugation. We started defining certain terms that we're going to be coming across often, such as infinitive, l'infinitif. We say in French, infinitif, which is the form of the verb that has not yet been conjugated. We talked about conjugation itself, which in French is la conjugaison. La conjugaison. Then you can add either des verbes, if you're talking about plural, many verbs, or du verbe, if you're talking about one single verb. So we're talking about la conjugaison des verbes, or la conjugaison du verbe. And we talked about les temps du verbe. Verb tenses. And under verb tenses, we identified présent. You can see that these words actually sound like what you already know in English, but we just changed the pronunciation. Présent. We talk about passé. We're going to have different past tenses. We're going to have different modes, different modes of the indicative. We talk about futur. See, they sound like what we know in English, okay? Répétez s'il vous plaît. Infinitif, la conjugaison du verbe, les temps du verbe, le présent, you can put le passé, le futur. So these are the key vocabularies you'll be hearing more. Now, we are going to actually go now and begin to conjugate verbs. We are going to start with the verb êtres, to be. And this verb is very, very important. You need to memorize this, okay? We will come back to start describing the characteristics of verbs, But let us look at the verb être, the way it is conjugated with the different pronouns. Répétez s'il vous plaît. Je suis, tu es, il est, elle est, on est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils sont, elles sont. And this is also accompanied with the phonetic transcription. Je suis, tu es. Some people may pronounce it as tu es, so you can see that. But if you said tu es, that works. Il est, you see that? Elle est, on est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils sont, elles sont. So, and that is the meaning. Je suis means I am. Tu es, you are. Il est, he is, or it is. Elle est, she is, or it is. And I explained how it works, in French. So it can either be il or elle, depending on whether the thing that you're replacing the name is male or female. Nous sommes, we are. Vous êtes, you are. Ils sont, they are for male. Elles sont, they are for female. So once you have understood how to conjugate a verb, Then the next thing is to start building things up into simple sentences. Okay, so now you know how to say I am, then why not put something here? All you now need to do is to understand what is, how can I say student? And student is étudiant. If it is a woman, you add an E, étudiante. So in that case, you can quickly start making sentences. Do you see now why I said that the verb is, you may begin to consider the verb as the center of the language. So here, I am a student. I just need to go into my dictionary and find out what is the equivalent of student. Étudiant. Then I put it there. Je suis étudiant. And the woman will say, je suis étudiante. The T is pronounced for a woman, but the T is silent for a male. Tu es étudiant. You are a student. Il est étudiant. Elle est étudiante. Nous sommes étudiants. Vous êtes étudiant. Ils sont étudiants. Let me clean up. When we were studying pronouns, one of the questions we asked was, how do we know the difference between il and il since they are pronounced the same way? How do we know the difference between L and L when we hear somebody using them because they are pronounced the same way? And I said we need to wait. Now let us begin to demystify that a little bit. Now, if with this verb conjugation, you can see these elements in action. They are now being combined with other words such as verb forms, you know, sont, être, sommes. Okay, now when I'm reading this, I go je suis, tu es, il est. All right, you see how it sounds? Il est. Il est. Okay. This one, elle est. Elle est, right? So now we go to the plural form. We say ils sont. See that? Ils sont. So already you know the difference. It's, you know, you are now being trained to identify the difference. The difference, these other accompanying words can now tell you the difference in context, right? Otherwise, if somebody were to just come and say il, it's difficult to know whether it's il singular or il plural. But you now need to look at the context, the surrounding words, other words that accompany it to be able to identify what they are saying. Somebody says elle and somebody says elles sont. The difference is there. So you're already trained now to know that elles sont is the plural version, elle is the singular version. There is another thing, another marker that I wanted to bring to your attention. We call it liaison. And actually, I want you to read this section later on. Take your time to go through. Liaison. And in French, we say la liaison because it is feminine. La liaison. La liaison. What is la liaison? So, we have been using it here, but we just need to identify what we are doing. So, je suis, tu es, il est, elle est, on est, nous sommes, vous êtes. Wow, look at that. In French, in a lot of cases, when the first word ends in a consonant, S, T, D, and the word coming after it begins with a vowel, A, O, U, E, I, you pronounce those two words together as if they were one single word. and that is called liaison. When you are pronouncing two different words and joining them together as if they were one word, you are doing what is called la liaison. So now you look at the phonetic transcription here. It's transcribed as vous êtes. Vous êtes. So if you're not trained to understand this, you may not even know that it is vous êtes, right? But because you're learning it in the classroom, remember we're learning the standard French, then all these things we are identifying them so that you are aware. When you listen to people or you speak out there, you need to put these things into where they belong so that people can understand you. Vous êtes. Répétez. Vous êtes. Alright, you see the phonetic transcription. Vous êtes. Well, we will see more of this, but these are some of the characteristics that you need to take note of when you are speaking standard French.